Batanai, thank you. I think let's just perhaps imagine you are talking to someone who has not heard about the stock exchange for the first time. Just give us the technical details of how the government hopes this will work.
Okay, so the background of the conversation really has to do with foreign direct investments into Zimbabwe. If you look at the numbers, you're basically seeing that, FDI flows came down to about 259 million for 2019, which is quite a small number if you then consider the companies that need to raise funding in hard currency in Zimbabwe. So the government, given that background, they are setting up a global investing platform whereby companies in Zimbabwe with operations in Zimbabwe can have the opportunity then to raise that capital. And this is being done through a free zone or offshore financial services center concept, which will be based in Victoria Falls. So initially, we would have your companies such as Old Mutual, PPC, and Citgo actually being listed there. But the bottom line here is that we're having an exchange that's trading in hard currency or any other convertible currency. And the rules of that exchange are different from the mainland zone, which is that, in terms of things such as taxes and the like, the idea is to then promote and attract, trading in hard currency.
Yeah. Perhaps for the benefit of those who might not know Zimbabwe, it used to have a stock exchange whose market capitalization was over $10 billion. We are now talking small change here. But I wanted you to give that description so that we situate it within the Zimbabwean context of today. We are now talking about a country with record inflation, well, record in terms of the region. In the past, we know it was worse. We are now also talking about a country with a difficulty in terms of maintaining investor confidence. I wanted your assessment in the ability of this new concept to get the money that Zimbabwe requires.
Okay. So the macro risk within the broader environment have continue to be a major cause of concern, especially if you then look at the stability around things such as monetary regimes and things like that. So that is sort of dampened the mood on the main exchange, which is the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. And what we have been seeing over the past couple of years is that investors, mostly frontier market investors, were actually exiting the market, via different mechanisms like fungible stocks, and also they also do have the auction system where they are actually moving money out. So really, yes, the political risk and also instability has sort of dampened the mood from a market capitalization perspective, and even from the trading volumes that we see on a day-to-day basis. But by the end of the day, there is a key constraint that has to be dealt with from a capital raising perspective, and this is why we are seeing the government then setting up an alternative exchange to say that yes, we have this background, but with a new setup, we are trying to protect or bring a bit of stability from an investor perspective. Yeah. So the concern has been repatriation of capital gains, repatriation of dividends in hard currency, which has been a difficult, thing to actually do, especially when you're looking at the foreign currency shortages. Yeah. So the main idea which is it's being done is that there's going to be a directive that will be issued to say that foreign investors will then have the opportunity to actually repatriate their capital gains smoothly, using the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange.
Yeah, but given that lack of confidence, Batanai, and I mean no disrespect here, are we trying here to fit a square peg in a round hole here? I mean, when you hear government officials speak about some of the policies that we see that are being pursued in the country, especially the issue around the political and economic crisis, and it's being dismissed as the imagination of a few people, when reality on the ground says things are not working, what are the chances?
Yeah, it's a difficult one in the sense that, government also has to prove a point here, because it's actually putting in place the laws, the regulations, and things like that are actually supportive and on paper, it actually makes sense. So really, they have to prove to say that, they adhere to whatever, regulations that they're actually putting in place to actually support this thing. Because by the end of the day, you have to boost confidence. And basically, we're looking at foreign investors because this is basically an offshore financial service centers. And also, there's going to be a lot of marketing that has to be done just to give investors just the confidence that government won't be piggyback or change, especially on the policy front.
Yeah.
But I think overall it is a good concept given the background, especially when they're looking at the dire state of companies, especially when you then look at the need for funding. I think it's quite critical to then look at other means of driving FDI flows into the market.
I see the main target appears to be the mining sector. I also wanted to get a sense from you in terms of the anticipated market capitalization of these things and the number of companies that will likely be traded here. And what's been the interest like? I mean, the government speaks obviously a little optimistically. They want this thing to succeed.
Yes, from the indications, especially from the various analyst investor conferences and seminars that have been done, there appears to be some interest from the mining community, more specifically, people that are playing in areas such as lithium, which is basically an upcoming mineral that's gathering a lot of momentum. There are also other areas where the ZSE and VFEX would actually focus on, especially when you then consider that mining groups like Zimplats have operations in Zimbabwe, but they're listed elsewhere. So that's probably an easier target to look at those companies to say that, there's now a global investment platform that, is also an alternative and try to develop interest from there. But of course, there is a lot of interest that we're seeing from the mining side.
Yeah, I mean, this is no laughing matter, but I just wanted to leave you with something to think about. I don't know when you were born, but I do remember in the later 1980s into the 90s, Zimbabwe was one of the few African countries that were invited to be peacekeepers in Somalia. Now, I wanted you to connect the dots this way. Somalia, Zimbabwe, and ostrich, and see if that makes sense to you. But I doubt you will make sense of it. Let me tell you. So Zimbabwe and Somalia, as I said just a few seconds ago, poles apart in the 1990s. This is now 2020. And I think you could compare the two countries in terms of the economic performance. And then secondly, in terms of the projection of the investor message. Last week, I had an interview with the Minister of Finance of Somalia. The message that he got out to the world was clear, succinct, and absolutely beautiful in terms of the commitment to openness and transparency. And then we come across the Limpopo. Zimbabwe says there is no problem. I mean, the contrast couldn't be any clearer.
Yes, I mean, of course, there's a part that, politics plays, and in a way it has sort of affected whatever economic reforms that, have been being pushed forward. But if you're looking at the Zimbabwe case, I just want to highlight that I think the drivers for economic growth and economic development are actually in place. Things such as, the basic infrastructure, human capital, and things like that. You find that, there appears to be a dent on the political side, but elsewhere, if you're then looking at the drivers that actually push economic growth, I think they are in place in Zimbabwe. So really, that is where the opportunity is. Of course, from an investment perspective, where there are high risks, there are also high returns. But yes, I think your point is quite valid.